Let's get started. There are a lot of things I would like to share with you today, both on theoretical stuff of how to approach things, but also the functionality we have to support generative AI application running in production. Thanks for your time and joining. Who could make it will receive recording, you as well. And I'm not actively monitoring chat, so maybe if you could wait with the questions till the end of it, and then I will go into the mode answering your questions. So let's get started. There are a few things that we have on the agenda today. So first, I would like to briefly cover how far did we get as enterprise IT in 2025 in the Gen AI space. So what the evolution is. Then again, as we all know, Gen AI has probabilistic nature. These are not traditional IT systems which 100% obey algorithms and the business rules we have implemented and works in deterministic way. And it presents certain challenge. Then we will focus on some of the areas you would need to monitor when you run your Gen AI application in production. This is where the interesting part, the live demo, will come in. So we'll keep fingers crossed that everything would work. And then I will finish with some key takeaways for this session. The evolution. So the large language models is that thing which is driving all this hype and innovation as well, transformation with Gen AI. So what we see is that new models are still coming up. Maybe we do not see such a dramatical improvement in the performance like we had when OpenAI changed from GPT-2 to GPT-3 or from GPT-3 to GPT-4. So there is like a law of diminishing returns on the scaling, but it still works. But the good thing is that the company also started to implement different algorithms in the large language models, which improve the performance and the accuracy of the models as well. And for example, all the reasoning models that we see now, this O1 or O3 series on OpenAI and comparable model from Anthropic or Google Vertex also coming, which is exciting because at the end of the day, this transformers is just like one of the way how you can get things working, right? Also, both from what analysts reporting and also what we see in the real life is that adoption in the enterprise is growing. Some customers who in 2024 just talked about AI are now running some hackathons or POCs. Those who did POC, they tried to get things into production and increase the scope of the functionality which Gen AI provides, which is like very excited. And also Google at their I/O conference 2 weeks ago, they reported that number of tokens that they are generating with their Vertex models has grown by 50 times, like 50. So there is a lot of expansion going on. And then finally, everyone now is talking about agents, AI agents, or agentic AI, which is a new trend, if you will. And basically, you can see that some people are saying that Gen AI was like in the past, and now it's the age of agentic AI. But as technical people, as those who try to go deep into the functionality and figuring out how things works, we understand that it's still all about the LLM. First, we will just implement very basic use cases which are prompt-based, give like a good prompt, give the context, basically maybe customer data or something like that. And you can implement nice use cases for summarization, classification, text generation, translation, more. It is, again, simple to implement. All you need to have a good prompt and the content from the system. And this is maybe in the context of large language models when companies are saying that their data is not super great. That's actually the point, that you don't need like a big amount of data, but every time you touch a customer records, if you have some meeting minutes over there or some kind of internal comments about what's going on with the company, what we see is that unstructured fields in our CRM systems are a mess, and sometimes it creates also problems for the good prompt outcomes. Then next, of course, like if you use prompts, the system would typically respond only with the pre-trained data, or the model would respond to pre-trained data. And of course, we wanted it to feed our internal knowledge. So that's how we came up with the central augmented generation use cases or pattern, where we first take our knowledge bases, we put them through another large language models, which is doing embedding. We store this vector somewhere. And then we are able to find some articles based on the user query. And then we provide the context of these articles as a context to the prompt and asking LLM to respond to the user question. So this is like how it could work in the essence. And then this is also the next step of evolution where these AI agents are coming in. So again, from the technology point of view, we're still using the same large language models on the background. But what's changing is that now some of the large language models, and again, increasing number of models do have this capability, which is called function calling or tool calling, is when together with our user message and system message some context, we're also giving the model description of the tools, which in our CRM examples could be basically Salesforce or Siebel APIs that we could do. Again, querying or updating user data, doing something with orders, maybe calling integrations as well. So that's always possible. And the idea is that we have a user query together with tool descriptions going to LLM, and then LLM based on these user requests and the tool description is getting us answers that in order to handle this user request, you need to use this tool with these APIs, with these parameters. If no tool available, it will try to generate answer based on whatever pre-trained data it had. If it's picking up a tool, then it will try to get the content for input variables. If it cannot find the content, it will get back to you asking for this additional information so that it could formulate the proper API call that you need to make, your agent platform need to make. And then basically when all these prerequisites are there, so user request, some context, and then tool description, so API, LLM will respond to your agentic platform saying that now you need to call this API with these parameters. It's a bit complicated, but actually through the demo, we will go how it works as well. And then this scenario is typically implemented as a chat UI, right? This is the way how Agentforce is working as well. And again, most classical implementation. And I think kind of the next frontier is going to be making these agents autonomous. So they're not waiting for an employee or for the customer to start talking to them. They work somewhere in the background. They check every time and then if there is any job for them to be done. And then they do tool calling and other things automatically. If they need to engage the user, so maybe they will start the chat conversations in Teams or in Zoom. But basically the idea is that they are there fully autonomous working in the background, engaging us when they need an input, or maybe they engage other AI agent, and also reporting to us what they have done and what the outcomes are. Okay, then the next point is about probabilistic nature of the LLMs. So again, if we talk about GPT stands for generative pre-trained transformers, and the transformer is an architecture on these large language models are made. First, sort of Google discovered them in their research, but they didn't focus on them, and OpenAI actually did. But effectively, if you look at the very simplistic level how it works, when you get a user query and set to LLM, it tries to predict a next token, which could be a word or part of the word. And then once that next token is generating, then based about some statistics, and it tries to understand the next token, and then it adds a next token to whatever old token had before. And then based on previous tokens, send a new one, so it tries to generate another one. And of course, it works on the very high scale on steroid, but at the end of the day, it's still about prediction of the next token. So it is not something predetermined. It is all based on probabilities. And obviously, with such kind of a design, it is impossible to achieve 100% response accuracy and consistency. So that's why if you go to any of the LLM-powered chatbots, you will have the message that no, our system can make mistake. Please verify facts if the information you're looking for is very critical and decision you're trying to make has high stake and cannot be reverted. So maybe it's not like the best use case to SLM, but still it's getting better. And we could say that, again, maybe through the algorithms as well, and the way how we chain together LLM calls in our applications, we are able to achieve accuracy of the results. But still, taking this all into account, I would argue that if we would apply the same criteria we apply for deterministic IT system, Gen AI agent would never pass UAT for us because of the consistency, of their accuracy. This is not what we are used by while working with IT. The system we're building always have to give the right answer. If it's not, it's a defect. It needs to be fixed. It's also the same expectation from the user. So if there is an IT system which is suggesting you something, it should be always right. But at the same time, these new capabilities that we're getting through these LLM-powered applications, when it comes to unstructured or semi-structured processing, could not be matched by deterministic systems with whatever algorithms or regular expressions-based processing we can't get them. So there is still a lot of benefits from this system. And the question is, how do we accept it? What helped me, maybe in a way, is that like I saw the statement somewhere that large language model is a human mirror. And if you think of it, if I would be giving the same presentation tomorrow or in 1 hour, I would use different wording. Maybe I would say some things, but not the others. And the same with LLM. So it's not consistent. But humans are also not consistent all the times. Then can it be so that I'm not telling you like all truths, or maybe this is how I see things, which might be not the universal truth. So maybe I'm hallucinating, and LLMs are also hallucinating. Also, let's say that even though I know some processes or business processes, how I should do things within my company, do I always follow this process? Maybe not. I can cut corners somewhere, or I just forget maybe. And that's the same with large language models. So I'm not saying that it's like a sentient or anything like that. It doesn't have definitely the soul and things, but maybe changing a perspective a little bit that it is not like really predeterministic IT system and we should apply different criteria. Maybe it would help us to get further with LLMs and improve them further as well, the application we build with them. And maybe one analogy that I wanted to use here is when a new hire comes into the call center, and as HR or as a kind of senior experienced colleague, we need to develop employee development type of thing. We need to develop the new hire into a very good, very efficient employee who is producing good results to the company. That's why we hire the person, right? But if it's a new hire, so we would always start with onboarding, right? So we would provide this employee with all the internal company knowledge about processes, products, how to use IT systems. It could be done the way of trainings or online courses or talking to the colleagues or experienced colleagues sharing their experience. Then obviously we need to give access to IT systems. Otherwise, this call center employee could not log a record or look up things in CRM and other systems. We also teach certain tone and language policies or guidelines, how we should speak to the client and what tone of voice we use. Then when it's done, and the person has like theoretical knowledge on what we do and how we work with the customers, then we try to simulate real life environment, right? So this person would do shadowing, basically joining another agent call and listening how they do the conversation and how they handle customer questions. We could arrange role-playing sessions as well when we, again, try realistic questions and see how this new hire is responding. And then at the end of the day, we assess performance. And even though performance might not be 100% correct, oftentimes we do put this person to handle live customer calls. Maybe there is someone else in this call as well, ready to take over the conversation with the customer if it started to get really bad and the new hire can't really handle it. Once this initial period is over and the new hire is more confident in his or her abilities in taking customer calls, we just let them operate independently, but we still every now and then listen to the call recordings, or if we have some AI generating insights, we just review those. And we do that in order to identify where this new hire needs to develop, right? So we try to identify the gaps. So we look at the performance in the calls, if we are able to capture customer feedback. So we need to understand where the person lacks knowledge, what skills they're using, and maybe they're not using proper principle of communication that we have established. And of course, we do provide the feedback, who helps this person to learn new things and also improve the soft skill. And that's how it basically works. Again, initial periods for the onboarding and assessment performance is real small. And this is where we expect, not small, maybe a few months, right? And this is where we expect the stages like 3, 4, 5, where we really expect the person to gain competence and become proficient in what they do. And I think of my point that we could apply same approach to generative AI agents. So if we look that now we've got our Gen AI agent and we need to develop it. This time I use word develop like in IT area, right? So build agent. So we could go through the same processes. First, we need to onboard the agent. Basically, if we have some internal knowledge bases, we need to connect it through the RAG tools, so retrieval augmented generation tools. Then we need to give it access to IT systems. In this case, we need to identify APIs, either granular or kind of more high level, which are calling some flows or workflows, talking about Siebel or Salesforce, which would they be called tools in the context of the AI agent, right? And also in the system prompts, we need to set the tone of voice, how they should respond to different customer queries. Then what we do, and I think this is like a very critical part, that ideally we should be able to get real life conversations with the user, so be it like an employee or the end customer. And then we need to test how agents is working with this conversation, how it is responding, is it picking the right tools, what kind of outputs these tools are giving to us, and this kind of things. And sometimes it is very difficult. Let's say if there is like a knowledge base somewhere and we don't know what kind of queries users are making towards this knowledge base, it's really hard for us to come up with a good set of real life conversations or queries. But it's still, I think, kind of very critical that we get those. If we are not able to get it, maybe the first step would be actually, do a little POC, go launch the agent in the production environment, tell your employee that this is like experimental mode, and get this set of real life user conversations or queries so that you can further optimize your agents or RAG flows. But anyway, assume that it is performing really well or decently, maybe not all the cases, because again, how many test cases would we do, right? Because the real test starts when we launch it in the real life. And this is the time when the users will start making very different queries, which are very diverse. Again, different people have different level of proficiency or in the command of the language, how they formulate their requests or thoughts. So this input can be very different. But what we need to do is actually, we really need to, especially in the early phases, we really need to look at how LLM responds and performs in different production scenarios. Then we do the same. Actually, this step doesn't change, like not a single word that has changed here. So we do analyze performance. Is it giving the right answer or not? We do look at the user feedback. So did they put like thumbs up or down? Did they use this answer in one way or another? And then we need to do that in order to identify the gap of the knowledge. Maybe we are not actually able to query internal knowledge bases like really good. If we're calling different APIs, are we calling them correctly? Are we picking up parameters properly? But also the tone of voice of the agent. So this is what we need to take a look at. And then we go into further improvements of our LLM instructions, in our tool descriptions. Then we look how we can optimize RAG and agent pipelines. And again, going back to this real life user conversations, we do another set of evaluation, how this optimized version of our agent is performing and what is the performance improvement. And if we're good with that, then we release this new agent version into production as well. So basically, that's I think of the approach, right? Gradually letting the agents work on the real data, but we need to develop competence over time. There's like another way how I could illustrate it. So let's say at the end of the day, building an IT system, it's about doing a lot of iterations. When we are building deterministic IT system, we do a lot of iterations during development. This is how we code. This is how we talk to a user or business analyst. This is how we demo and get the feedback, and then we need to change something. So there is a lot of iterations going on this development stage. Then we do the testing. Of course, nothing is perfect. Some defects are found out. We need to fix them. So we redeploy everything and test again and go back and forth. And then once we go live, there might be still some issues, right? So we fix them. But in general, we're not doing much changes after we went live. And maybe you can say that this iteration is also in some way correlates to the amount of time or money we spend at each of the stage. My argument is that with a LLM-based system, it could be actually reverse. So that actually configuring your prompts, providing the agent with the tools, doing the right description with the first set of questions, those that we typically would use in our sales demos to the customers. Yeah, look, I asked this question, this is answer. Look, I have to do this thing, and hey, it's updated, whatever it needed to update in CRM. What a great system, let's go live. So this is what we're actually showing, right? And me personally, I have big problems when Salesforce saying that you can implement Agentforce in one day. Yes, you can do this part, but it's not going to be performing in your live production data just after one day and doing like very basic prompting and agent definition in 5 hours, right? But then we need to go through the testing. And again, the more time we spend here, the better. But this is where we will, amount of time we spend here on these iterations depends on how good or how representative of the real life user queries and the conversations we have for testing, because this is actually where the actual work starts. And when we go live, I think that a lot of changes will be further implemented to these agents, both in terms of addressing the accuracy or the quality of the outputs, but also we will need to look at the latency that these models have. We need to look at the cost so that we optimize them. So there is a lot of iteration that would go in this after go live phase. I don't know if it's helpful or not, but this is at least like the way how I think. So the sooner you get into production, the better it is. Do it in the control way, in a iterative way, because it's okay that we do a lot of changes, a lot of development, a lot of iterations after we actually go live, which is totally different from deterministic system. So we launched the production, provided the hypercare for 1 week, and then we are busy doing something else, right? So totally different approach. Again, more with a live employee. Okay, moving on. So focus areas for monitoring and the demo. We are getting to the interesting part here. At this stage, agent is like a most complicated sort of pattern that we could see in this Gen AI world, because it is using a lot of prompts, right? So like every interactions you do with LLM, it's still doing prompts, but in agent case, also tool descriptions added to that. And also our retrieval augmented generation or question answering could be one of the tools our agent is using, right? So basically it is the most capable AI sort of implementation or Gen AI implementation in 2025. But there are actually different ways to implement agents, and there is like a very different way how different companies look at it. So if you go to basic classical definition of the agent, is that you have an agent, this agent has tools, and that's it. You make a call to LLM, certain prompts, you provide description of the tool, or agent makes call to LLM. LLM tells the agent what tool to call, with what parameters. Agent is calling this tool, giving the output parameters to LLM. LLM creates very nicely, puts human language, answering using kind of natural language, again, using the tone of voice and communication instructions we provided it. And again, the same as maybe with the humans, when we are giving too much of the choice, we get confused. The same goes with agents. So the good practice is that you keep number of tools in the agents maybe below 20 so that it's not getting confused. And that's why, let's say, if you look at more sort of enterprise level implementation, so if you look at the Agentforce or at Oracle AI Agent Studio, which will go live in July, and also Magnet AI, which is like the tool Ideaport Riga is creating at more levels. Magnet AI, we're following kind of Agentforce structure. So we have an agent. The agent has topics. So basically, one topic could be about, if you talk about telecom kind of product inquiries, another topic could be about ordering something or upgrading to one product to another. And then, for example, the third one could be billing related questions, right? And it's like when you're calling a call center, there's like a IVR going on saying that for this type of questions, press 1, for that type of question, press 2, for that type of questions, press 3, and this is topics. And then, again, using Agentforce terminology and Magnet terminology, tools are called actions, but technically they are the same. So you provide actions to the topic, and then it's going to be another call to LLM. The first call is going to be to pick the right topic, and the second call is going to be pick the right tool and do something with that. But this is how we handle complexity when we're not able to provide 100 tools to the agents, because it will get confused and will not perform really well. Oracle, they, in terms of terminology, they are following more sort of conventional, traditional approach. Tools are called tools. There are agents, but also you have an agent family. So like supervisor agent, which understand what user wants and then picks the right agents to do and do tool calling. Again, maybe we'll change the approach in Magnet AI as well, but for now we just want to stick to Salesforce because we believe that this is the best agentic implementation in CRM products that we have available at this stage. Okay, speaking of quality and what to monitor, so we need to monitor where Gen AI can go off the track, right? So with prompts, it's very easy. Again, maybe user is asking the thing that you cannot really provide. Maybe your system message is not like super optimized and there are ways to improve it. Or again, maybe it is the context that we add either to the user message, to the system message, which makes it really hard for LLM to respond correctly. But basically, it is all very well controlled and there is not too much probabilities involved here. So with vector search and RAG, it gets maybe a little bit more complicated. Of course, the way how user formulates question is very important. But then, speaking of RAG, there's two sides or two steps, right? So one is when we actually take our existing knowledge bases, we parse the document, cut it into chunks because we want to put only a certain amount of chunks to the LLM. And then we do the embedding so that this vector search or semantic search could work. And we store this embedding somewhere. And then when the user query comes, we also convert it to the vector. Then we perform a vector search on our vector database. Again, how we search, which methods, how close chunks needs to be done. Maybe we do some other things in between, like manipulating the question or expanding the question or doing translation. So it's all impacts the result of the search or like the retrieval part. And then once we have retrieved the knowledge to give to LLM, then we make a prompt asking LLM to answer the question. And again, this is a prompt. We can change it with the format or the way how the language is working. But again, in all of these steps, something could go wrong. Something is not optimal. Again, taking huge variety of real-life user queries. And we need to optimize it as well. And then with agents, it's even getting a bit more complicated. So always user queries. Some of them are really elaborate details to the point. Some of them are really short. Some of them are really confusing. We still need to deal with those, right? And then there are many steps where it could go wrong. So do we understand or do we determine the topic correctly or not? If we have determined the topic, are we able to pick the right action? Are we able to get the context from the user messages to the action so that it can run something? Is basically our API or tool or action giving us the right answer? Because again, if your data in CRM is not super great, it will impact the agent performance. Sometimes in order to generate one message, we need to call several actions together. Is your agent actually able to determine that it needs to actually call not just one action, but 2 or 3? Is it understand that you need to call them in parallel or in sequence? This is also a very tricky part. And then at the end of the day, it's still the agent response generation. Again, the prompt matters a lot and whatever data we go. And this is just to talk about the accuracy. Another 2 areas that we need to monitor closely with Gen AI is user adoption and cost of large language model calls. Okay, so first, user adoption. Again, if we're not talking about autonomous agents yet, and again, at Magnet AI, we're not doing that. I don't know when Salesforce will come up, something like that, maybe in London in 2 weeks. But we're still talking about conversational agents when the user takes initiatives and involves agent into the discussion. And like with any employee or with any end user, it is not mandatory, right? If they like it, they use it. If they not, they will find like many reasons why they don't want to use it or why they don't use it. And sometimes these reasons are valid. Sometimes it's just like the attitude or personality. But again, organizations, when they do implement agents, they do have certain business logic behind, right? So there is like a way, in most of the cases, a way how we get return on investment into the agents. And I think kind of this is where we also need to use sort of user-centric approach, right? So we need to understand what users need to do and how we can make this task simpler for them. And if this is a way how we can, what we can accomplish with agents, then we are in luck and users will start using it. So basically, the more value we're able to add to the agents, the higher consumption we have, and in turn, it drives better ROI. And again, when we need to monitor, so we need to monitor how many users, unique users are using our system, or percentage of all the user base which are giving this functionality. We need to look at the conversation, how many conversations we have. Is it just like one question and that's it? Or is it like a lengthy conversation, meaning that users are kind of more engaged with those? Of course, we need to pay attention to user feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down, maybe something else. Typically, with LLM, we can also determine what is user sentiment, especially at the end. So are they happy with the outcome or are they not happy? Did we able to help them or not? And also maybe if it's possible to look at the response here. So say if your agent is generating the message, is user actually sending the message to the customer or it is like just ignoring it, right? So basically do not use it somehow. So that was about user adoption and ROI. And then the cost of LLMs as well, right? So again, commonly the vendors are charging companies based on consumptions. So be it the conversation that you have with the agent or actions or tool calls it's making, which new agent force model when they charge you 10 cents for one tool call. Or if you're using pure LLM API provided by Google or Anthropic or Azure or OpenAI, so they would charge you based on the token. So how many you sent in, how many you received back, so it's all calculated. So basically, it is based on consumptions. It means that these costs are not fixed, they are variable. And it means that if these are variable costs, they can escalate pretty quickly if you do not control them, right? And this is, I think, one of the biggest risks that on one hand, it's hard to budget how much IT costs will need to do because it is consumption based. But at the same time, it's fair because, again, if users and companies see value in this agentic or Gen AI applications, then there is consumption, right? And I think this is like a fair trade in this situation. But again, if we are in the IT department and we receive this large bill, so we definitely should know which department we would need to cross-charge. Is it like a call centers? Is it like sales guys? Is it someone else that we would split the invoice with? But also for us, in order to optimize the cost going forward, we need to know which agents, which prompts that they are using, and how we can maybe improve it by switching to a simpler model or again by optimizing the prompts as well. Okay, and with that, I will just do a Magnet AI demo. So for those who are not familiar, Magnet AI is a free open source low-code Gen AI enabled platform. So you can create features, Gen AI features, and put it into your CRM. Again, we are targeting CRM professionals who do not need to know the Python so that they do not go to LangChain or anywhere else. And since it's like free and open source, we do provide also premium implementation services, but also support services. So in terms of the use cases, we support everything related to simple prompt-based stuff, vector embeddings, RAG, and conversational agents, no autonomous agents yet. Again, following this low-code approach, we can connect LLM through UIs, knowledge sources, create prompt templates, create like retrieval, RAG, and API tools, put an agents together, expose it as a kind of AI application, which could be embedded as an iframe into any applications, including Siebel Salesforce. And this is like where the integration comes. So you can access all of that through APIs, or there is iframe, or for Salesforce Lightning Web Components. And then we're also using for different type of UX, building like Lightning Web Components based on this generative AI foundation that we have. And then important part are evaluations. Remember this live user conversations that we need to run through before we go live. So this is this part. So for now, we did a good job with prompts and RAG, and agents are in the pipeline at the moment. But where we'll focus today is actually usage analytics, right? So how to understand how your agents are performing, or RAG or prompts in production, what responses they're generating, how much do they cost, whom to charge, and how did they come up with this answer? So which trajectory your agents took in order to answer with the way it is. So with that, I will switch to the demo. Okay, let's do. Okay, so here's my Salesforce. We'll implement the same for Siebel when this new beautiful Oracle Jet components will be available as well. So I go to case details, and I see that the user is asking that they, by mistake, submitted two orders, and they want to cancel this order, one of these orders. So first, maybe if I'm a new person, so maybe I don't know, can I actually cancel orders? So I ask, what is our order cancellation policy? I think kind of if doing real demo of deterministic system is very exciting and prone to errors, with probabilistic systems like Gen AI, it is totally different scale. So let's keep the fingers crossed. Okay, it takes some time to respond. Okay, as I mentioned, so we have a bunch of models which are connected, and here we also put the pricing, so that in order for us to estimate the pricing, so we update it or keep it in the system. So we have connected different knowledge sources, which could be SharePoint or Salesforce knowledge base or Oracle Fusion knowledge as well. Then we have a place where we define the prompts with the system messages, which model we use, how we want to format the output and the test scenarios, and we can preview things. So RAG tool, which effectively is which knowledge sources we're picking up, what similarity score we need to look for, what prompt we use to generate the answers, do we do any language translation, and other things. Then API tools, basically something from Siebel, something from Salesforce, some of the mock services as well. Because again, to test those, maybe you don't need to have actual connection to a real life system. And then we have the agents. So the one we're testing now is this Salesforce demo agent. It has two topics. One is updating information, another one is answering question, which it's supposed to do now, and I hope it actually came up. Basically, it says that, okay, if the orders are in draft status, and we can cancel that, that's good. And then, since I don't want to retype this whole thing, we build this custom component, which is able either to send this message to the agent, and the agents will start working right away, or we can copy it here, and we can further modify it. But in this case, I'll just hit send, if this allows me to do. Okay. Okay, and then since this sort of analytics or usage analytics is working in the real time, we can actually start tracking the results. But I don't need to do it because actually the answer is here. So let's just look at what's going on. It gave me some orders details. I can't really tell which is like the latest. Can you tell me the order dates or ordering dates? I don't know if it's like correct way to put it. Didn't try it before. Let's try it out. Okay, it seems that this is like the last one and it's the same value. Okay, so I think I need to cancel this order. And actually it's saying which order I need to cancel. So I just say, okay, first one is one I want to cancel. Here is also that we do have this like actions where we ask the users explicitly to confirm the action. Again, querying data is easy. Updating, we should be careful. And if this is like a careful operation, we want users to think about it again. We do ask for confirmation. So I confirm it. Okay, something happens again and the order has been canceled. So say if I go to this account and I look at the orders, I see that this order is actually canceled. I'm not like really good at Salesforce, so I don't know if I can see like the details on those cases. But this is actually this order. So what we've got in Magnet for analyzing the usage. So this was like a user conversation. Actually, this is actually the one. So it was a Salesforce demo agent, as I explained before. So there was someone calling us through APIs, and actually they identified themselves as Salesforce demo agent. Okay, sorry about that. So it's still like in progress because maybe we will be asking more things. So there's a how long time it takes until we automatically close the order. What was like average latency for the response? Like 14 seconds, it's way higher than I had before. So interesting. Also, I see that the cost is a bit higher as well than usually we would do. So 4 cents. Okay, this was the topic which agent used. And if I kind of go in here, so actually I am able to see all this conversation within the system. So first the question, okay, and see that when the conversation started, when it has finished, not local time, but UTC, I think. Here's like local time. So 4 minutes was a demo. So this was the cost. It's still in progress. And again, this was like the first question, and this is how we came up with an answer, right? So I can look at these steps, which is, I think, a particularly useful feature. So basically, first it was a classification step. So we picked the prompt, and it gave us the reason that user is asking about general question about policy, which falls under category of general user question. So that's why I called a tool or action or topic agent force user manual. And that's the like description of this tool. And this is the parameter how we called it. So it was like a RAG tool. Actually, LLM is a reformulated question. So it was no longer what is our order cancellation policy, just searched by order cancellation policy. And basically, if I look at the response of this tool, this is a response. And then LLM is making kind of sense out of it in the nice human format. I could also see if I don't like it, I can indicate what the reason was or where the issue was, that for this particular step, something was not working really well. Or I can just go back and analyze like entire conversation. So let's say this is like another message which came in, right? So if I want to understand how LLM generated this message, so I could see that, okay, first, they select the topic, which was like contacts and orders. This is a particular tool that they picked up, get order by case ID. From the content, they also understood the case ID. And here's a link that there is like a service which gets case IDs. From case ID, it gets account, and from account, it gets orders. Maybe we should have implemented simpler, but that's how it is now. Again, here we have some kind of response, also quite a lot of tokens. And then basically this is like the end of the call for this one. And so on. So let's say here when I asked about the dates, so it didn't do any tool calling, but it was able to come up with answer because for all these orders, it already had in the previous tool response the effective date. So it just thought that ordering date is effective date. Maybe there was no other date in the response, so it just picked this one, which kind of good guess for now. And then so it goes. What else I can do is, let's say, if I'm lucky enough to get it into the screen, so I can view the trace of this entire conversation. So this is where it gets how actually all the different pipelines are working together. Conversation started, what is our cancellation policy, and some content as before. That was like the output, how did it get there? So first it picked the topic. So that was the input message, and the output was that this is a topic. Then it was like the system message, user message, and generated text. Then as a next call to LLM, this main agent loop started. So first it decided which tool to call. So in this case, it was Telco Sales Source Manual and query is this one. Then because it was RAG, it started to do the RAG. First, it did generate vector embedding for the user query, which actually in this case it was reformulated query by LLM. Then we did the vector search. So we searched this knowledge base, tried to find 5 documents for the limit, but it seems that we have found only one with certain ranking, but it still contains the information. So then we went to generating the text. So that was a prompt, again, giving the knowledge article in the quotation, answers the question, add URLs. And to this prompt, we added the content, basically whatever we retrieved, whatever chunk we retrieved from the vector base, you can see it here. And then as output, as a generated message, it was this one. And here was the link as well. Okay, then it was like the end of this message generation. So there was like a tool call. This is a tool response. And this is what we have generated in reply. Then here comes like another message. We'll start again with the topic detection. We have detected the topic. This is actually the prompt which did it. And the output is that the topic should be Salesforce contact orders. This is like the model we're using and like prompt template that we're using. And then basically just went further to do another tool call selection. That's what, in this case, it just did this get orders by case ID. It called it with these parameters, and this was at the end of the day, the results that we have received. Again, to speed up a little bit, what else can we do here? So the traces, all traces are here. If you go to usage, I can understand kind of RAG performance separately. Also, we do have a dashboard, so I can say that how many users I had during last 24 hours, how many tools call we have, did the user like it or not, and maybe I want to understand why we didn't answer this. And then here again, I can look at what was the question, what was the prompt. I can go and look at the trace, find this particular RAG query on this trace, and try to find the root cause of the problem. The same goes for agents. So how many users, how many discussions, average message per conversation, how much it costed us overall to do that, and basically who was this consuming agents, right? So it seems that this demo Salesforce agent is like super busy one, but maybe not the most costly. And if I want to see the most costly one, so this is like Siebel Open Integration agent, and I wonder what did it do? So I go and see what was going on. So it was Oleg playing with that. So he did get a list of catalog. So we called some of the API, which got us a catalog. And then we asked like what products are in one particular bundle. So it gave us all the bundles, and we added one of the product into promotion, and then we do accounts and added like another component, etc., etc. So quite a lot of steps here that we see, but also it's expensive to me. So if I want to understand why, I can go here again into traces, and I can see that some of them, like this one, are really expensive. But the reason probably is such that these APIs that we're using for Siebel is returning too much of the data. That's why it consumes a lot of tokens. And again, the more tokens we consume, higher bill we need to pay. And maybe we need to optimize also Siebel API so that they return only relevant data, but and not all like 100 fields, which comes there by default. And maybe the last thing in terms of the usage. So again, all the LLMs calls are logged as well, right? So I could see like the summary, again, how many calls, what are the total costs, average frequency. Some of them faulted. If I want to look like which one didn't work, I can select them as well and see what was going wrong. Same way I can look at the trace or something went wrong here. So basically, we have all of the capabilities that to understand what is going on, how our agents or app tools are responding, what calls are we making to LLM, how much they cost, who are the consumers, what is the quality of the results, how did it arrive actually to these results, where did it go wrong, and we can trace it in Magnet AI. Okay, and sorry, running out of time, so let's go back to the presentation. Key takeaways, five of them, or maybe six. So again, in order to get through these barriers that agents or Gen AI applications are not super reliable and accurate, change your paradigm and think of training your agents like you do the training or development of the new call center hire, right? So evaluate what they do, guide them, and help them improve. Another thing is that when you're building your RAG pipeline or prompt templates or agent, try as early as possible to build a diverse collection of the real life user conversation. Then you will get really good evaluation set. And in that way, when you go live, your accuracy will be way higher if you would just do like few queries and see how it works here and there. It's important to monitor responses of AI, right? So with the traces and stuff, you need to understand the trajectory that particular agents took, and then you start iterating. And again, remember 20, 30, 100 rule. 100 means that you have to do a hell of a lot of iteration in production environment, and that's the way how it is with the agents. Again, then monitoring the user feedback and how much are they engaged with your Gen AI functionality is very critical. If you bring value to the users, they will start to use your application more, so consumption is growing. And also in that way, it enables the ROI that you originally intended for this whole thing. Controlling LLM cost is like super important. So variable cost, so you will need to know whom to cross-charge. You need to understand using which model generates all of the costs. So maybe you can switch to another model from another vendor or to the smaller one. And then also you need to know which tool, maybe like we saw with the Siebel APIs, you need to optimize because the response is just too huge. So it's not visible to the user because LLM would formulate the response in the natural language using only data it thinks it is relevant to the user query, but still you're gonna pay the tokens which are under the hood and generate the costs. And finally, with Magnet AI, please explore it, give it a try. We're here to help and support you. So with that, I stop sharing. So if there are kind of any questions that we have, so maybe this is like the right time to answer those. Yeah, sorry that we're over time. Okay, I think some people already left, so maybe they have another meeting started, especially those based in the US. If there are no questions with that, I would like to finish this webinar. Again, thank you for joining and spending the time here. Was it like a morning or evening or late evening for someone who is joining from India? And yes, let's keep in touch and good luck with implementing your Gen AI use cases. Thank you.